Pedal Campers, it is SeanPierceJohnson, your counselor for today's activities here on Stompbox Saturday. Hey, you two back there, it's I hope we never part. Now get it right, or pay the price. Am I right? Enough of the 90s Nickelodeon references. What are we looking at today? Well, we are taking a look at the Whitey Tighty. I almost said Tighty Whitey. It's the Whitey Tighty Compressor by JHS Pedals. And yes, what you heard at the top was my hastily thrown together rendition of the Salute Your Shorts theme song. You can see the t-shirt, and you obviously understand why I'm feeling that vibe. There's Tighty Whities on this pedal, and it's funny. So let's go ahead, throw it up on the screen, and take a look at this very cool diminutive compressor pedal that can do quite a lot more than it suggests by first glance. A very simple user interface means that the Whitey Tighty is probably the most bonehead simple compressor outside of maybe, a Dynacomp or a Ross tune knob. We have controls for volume, comp, and blend. Now, volume is sort of going to be not only your output volume, but it's also going to be makeup gain, because when we compress signals, we're taking volume away, we're squashing it down, and if we want to get back to unity gain from our original tone, we can use that volume knob to find that sweet spot, or we can go ahead and use it as a little bit of a boost, so we can hear a little bit of that compression sound and maybe give our tone a little bit of a different vibe from it. Now, comp is setting your compression threshold and ratio, the amount of compression that is going to be happening in the effect. I don't know 100% the ratios that are on this one, but to my ears, from what I've already experimented with it so far, it definitely leans more to the studio quality, where the compression that you're hearing is very clean and very transparent. Now, the blend knob is something that I'm loving seeing on compressor pedals now. It allows you to take your compressed sound and then dial in a set amount of your original clean tone. Basically, the practice of parallel compression. When you have it turned all the way counterclockwise, you're hearing your full compressed signal. Slowly turning it clockwise starts adding in that clean tone that you started out with, and all the way to the right you basically have just your sound that you started out with, which is different from some of the other ones, because mostly when it's at its minimum value, it's like a 50-50. So this really allows you a measure of flexibility that some other compressor pedals out there with a blend control don't offer you. Now, we could go on ad nauseum about compression and how it works and what it's good for. And I think the best way to showcase this particular pedal to you is to show you how I would use it with a few of the different guitars in my collection. We'll, of course, go with the main Les Paul, because why not? I also have my Jennings Navigator that I'll bring in here to show you some use with fattening up some single coils. And then I'll bring in my Ramos, which has split coils on it. That will be a good way to show you how we can normalize volumes from humbuckers to single coils so that we get a fairly even gain structure. So let's jump right in, and I'll show you how I like to use it within the context of the music that I make. With these particular settings on the Whitey Tighty, I find that it works really well for normalizing the transients of my guitar across both my clean and distorted tones, kind of giving everything a nice, soft, round edge to it. I'll go ahead and play my clean tone and my dirty tone without it. First, a clean tone doing some arpeggiated stuff. You can hear the way it takes my initial attack, takes those sharp edges, kind of rounds them off a little bit, and makes my tone just a little bit cleaner. That's because we're taking this high output pickup, limiting the signal just a little bit so we can get a little bit of a cleaner sound. Switching over to the dirty channel, even though I love this guitar and my rock reverb, there are times where the guitar's attack can be just a little too out front and maybe be a little too harsh. Now let's go ahead and turn on the Whitey Tighty and see how that changes the sound. Kind of nice. It helps the note separation a little bit, takes the pick attack and just kind of rounds it off a little bit, kind of shifts where it sits in the frequency spectrum, and doesn't make this high output pickup and the high gain amp kind of give you the ice picky kind of thing. Not that this usually gives me the ice picky thing, but it's a nice little trick, and one that I find works equally as well if I'm just doing sort of strummed chords. We'll turn that off again and then go for just, you know, strummed rhythm. There you go. That's the way I like to use it. Now let's go pick up the Navigator and fatten up some single coils. This is a really good example of how a low compression setting can give you just a little bit of extra juice when it comes to your single coils to fatten up a little bit. Now, of course, we are using a little bit more of the volume, the output, the makeup gain. We're not compressing too much. We're just using that compressed sound to add a new layer and dimension to our clean tone. Of course, one of the other things that compressors do is they round off a little high end, so the bridge pickup doesn't have that sort of like twangy thing. Kind of softens that a little bit and makes it a little bit more harmonically rich rather than sort of abrasive. Let's go ahead and kick on the clover and let's combine the two. See what we can do in front of, say, some nice pedal drive. terms of the guitars in my collection, I would say that my Ramos is probably one of the most full-featured. Sure, it looks quite simple at first glance, one volume, one tone, but each is a push-pull pot, allowing me to split the coils on the Seymour Duncan humbuckers. Now, splitting coils is great, but the problem is that once you take one coil away, you get that drop in volume, get that drop in gain, and quite frankly, for someone like me who wants to keep his gain structure as consistent as possible throughout the course of a set or a session, that can be a little bit bothersome. This particular setting on the Whitey Tighty does a very good job of maintaining my gain structure, but also is a good example of how heavy compression can work in one aspect for limiting the dynamics and the other aspect for boosting it up and giving us just a little bit more. Sort of a compressor and an expander kind of thing to it. I'm getting into some weird compression terminology that you probably don't know, but do not worry. So let's go ahead and start by playing with the humbuckers. Then I'll tap both humbuckers to get the single coil sound with some arpeggiated stuff, and then we'll switch on the Whitey Tighty and play the same exact passage. Now let's go ahead and make them full humbuckers, kick on the Whitey Tighty, and let's play the same thing. A very handy setting for this particular guitar. That was just clean. Now let's go ahead and switch over to the dirty channel, and then we'll play a riff with the full voice humbucker, then tap it, and then we'll add on the Whitey Tighty. What's really crazy is this particular setting, it makes me feel the low end a lot more when I tap the coil. I feel like I've actually got some more body back out of it, and it's a very cool thing. Obviously, through these three different guitars, these different settings, I'm finding this to be a very useful pedal and probably going to be finding its way onto my board sometime soon. And that, my friends, is just a little taste of what the Whitey Tighty Compressor from JHS Pedals can do. And in terms of compression pedals that I've played recently, this might be one of my absolute favorites. It's very simple, but for what it is in its simplicity, the tones that I'm able to get out of it are some of the best that I've heard. I love that even in the higher range of the compression knob, I still don't feel the compressor like crazy. I know it's there doing its job, but it's not hindering my playing, and it's not influencing it so much that I don't feel like what I'm hearing coming out of my amp isn't me. And the bonus part is, this is so small I could get another one and have 2 different compression settings and swap between them on my switcher. But that's a problem to solve for another time, and that is another video entirely. And I would love to know what you thought of the Whitey Tighty. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, and when you see them, please do click the subscribe button and consider supporting on Patreon so I can keep making these demos for you. As always, it is such a pleasure to have you, and it is a thrill that you chose to spend part of your Saturday with me. I can't thank you enough. And until next time, my friends, I'm SeanPierceJohnson, and I wish you all great tone and happy stomping. Cheers.